Hey all, for this week's quickie edit, I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to take one image and do a whole bunch of um, different treatments of it. And I'm going to start with this image, which I have edited a little bit to get it to a starting point. I have, let's see, so originally it was this, which shows clearly what the lighting was. It was black seams background and a pretty big, like 5-foot baffled softbox directly overhead. So I fixed the white balance. I fixed the turned up the exposure so that I could get a decent white balance. Then I cropped it. Then I did a low pass on that, just to kind of make it less of an edge. Then turned the exposure off so that this is my starting point. So I'm going to Control D to duplicate that. And first of all, I will just do a very typical of my edit. This is a little bit low and a little bit low, so I'm going to push. I'm going to consider it underexposed. So I use the exposure module to fix underexposed. Going to get it kind of up to a decent exposure and down to a decent exposure. Then I'm going to do a little bit of an S-curve here. If you've watched my other videos, this is very, very typical of my treatment of studio shots. A little bit of contrast, a little bit of saturation. Probably drop that a little bit. And then what is kind of my signature is that tweak at the lower end of the equalization to give that kind of extra zap to it. And that is around what I would call normal, kind of a normal edit. So we've got the highlights are just showing up in the face. The lowlights are just showing up around the face. The background is about where I want it. It's fairly muted. Bring the shadows down and bringing that down a little bit. So there you go. That is image 1. Now, just for fun, let's compare that to a Nikon base curve. Or let's do a whole thing with a base curve. Sometimes base curve works for me, sometimes they don't. If you see my other videos, you see, what am I doing here? I swear the older I get, I can't see stuff anymore that is right in front of me. Where is the base curve? I'm not crazy. It's not there, is it? Okay. So where is it? I don't even know where it lives because I never use it. It is somewhere. Where is it? Oh, it's here for now. Anyway, so let's play with the Nikon D800 base curve. Which one did I clone? Oh, I'm still there. So back to the clone of my basic base curve. Nikon D800. It's not bad. Nikon like, a little bit on the dim side, but then it was underexposed. So let's do a Nikon like and fix the exposure and see what we think. Let's compare these two. So there's my basic edit, and there is mine base curve. Mine base curve. So, I mean, it's decent. If I was doing proofs and I wanted zero work, I guess the base curve could work for me. But I prefer the subtleties of mine. Okay, next edit. Control D, Control clone that. Let's do a low key. So let's do, yeah, let's do a low key. And by low key, I do not mean that. That is underexposed. And a lot of, I do not like the way people do that. They just take a photo and they want to black stuff out and leave highlights, and that is not low key. That is just underexposed. It's one of the rare times I use this levels. So I'm using the levels to basically push the dark end off the end. I'm going to bring the exposure up with exposure, which has brought back more than I want. Really want to be bringing up the highlights more than the shadows, because I really want her face coming out of the gloom here, but I want it to be correctly exposed, so the parts that are visible I want to be well exposed. I think that's about okay. Let me see, what if we move the midpoint here? Yeah, like that. Equalizer can help pop these highlights too. Yep. That is getting in the realm of good. So I kind of like that. This blend is okay. If I tank that a bit more, I'm going to start getting coarser edges on the blend between dark and light. But that's still okay. I like that. So that is number 3. So let's clone off the normal one, my kind of normal edit, and do something with some split toning. I kind of like that with, let's kill some saturation. Let's kind of desaturate that so it's not black and white. It's not monochrome, but let's push the saturation of the skin tones. Yeah, I like that too. Levels still right about on. Yep, I'm getting a highlight on the face there, so I'm fine with that levels wise. All of these could probably do, vignette probably work with all of these. But we'll throw it on there. So I like that. That's a little bit like last week's edit. What else could make that even more interesting? Yep, I like that. And I'm going to take another one, more violent split tone, almost like a monochrome. So I want to go that way. It's a very stylized, almost like it's a gelled photo. But the nice thing with using the split, color correction, I call this split toning when you're taking the, it is split toning, when you're taking the highlights in one direction and the shadows in another. Oh, that's nice too. But I mean, there's a zillion different nice outputs you can have with this. I'm gonna go with that. Clone again off the basic one. Let's work on a monochrome. I don't know where to go with this. That I like. Bit sharper. Even bring some sharpness up there. Make the blacks a little bit more black. Want a little bit more, I guess it's contrast. It is contrast, but I don't know if the contrast slider is what is going to make me happy. Or is it that? It's that. So this, the tone, monochrome tone of that is really nice. I wonder what happens if I boost the shadows. Meh. Wish somebody would do a YouTube video on all of these other sliders, because I don't use them. I don't know when to use them or why to use them, and sometimes I play with them and I don't get a result that gives me any joy, so I just don't use them. Kind of like that. Okay, so what do we got? Raw. That was just slightly tweaked, white balanced, and cropped. My basic edit. Base curve. Low key. Desaturated-ish kind of thing. So desaturated with the skin saturate popped. Split toning, all in the same direction. Black and white. What else could we do? What about something really bright? Cloning that. Oops. Did I just press export? I guess I just did Control E. Okay. So what if we go super bright on this? Like blow out bright. Can you hear the fan going here? Everything's just ground to a halt. Between Simple Screen Recorder, which is what I'm using, and Darktable, the machine is getting really hot. Okay, so we're going to overexpose here and see if we can stylize that. What does bloom do? Ooh. Nothing nice, but I could see something based on that. Like even taking the, here's what I mean. If I take the original and add a little bit of bloom, we have this kind of tip bloom there. It's subtle, but I kind of like it. Anyway, back to the overexposed. What are we doing here? Bloom, no. How much can we get out of this? No. You see my curtain here. That's annoying. I think I want a vignette to tame the edges a little bit. And I think I want to soften things. And I think I want to... What if I bring up shadows instead of doing this all with exposure? Can I get the same kind of look I'm going for without overexposing the face? No, it all kind of goes to crap. That's okay. But let's do this. This is not my style, but I still think it's kind of nice. But let's do a new instance of exposure with a parametric mask and just use this to tame down the super highlights like that. Let's bring that down a touch. Better. I mean, it holds up, doesn't it? Maybe some more contrast because it was a little bit underexposed and we're really pushing it in terms of we're taking a spot from here and going up a full wodge. How many is that? Is each one of those a stop? I'm not sure. Saturate that a little bit more too. I mean, I can see that being likable. Maybe. Yeah. I like this. I like the vignette, but I don't like the way it's impacting the shoe. So first of all, let's tell the vignette not to mess with contrast. And secondly, let's adjust the shoe by itself with a drawn mask. Ooh, that was a bit messy. Does it work? Kinda. Works okay. So that's okay. That's our bloom. You know what? Where's our desaturated? I remembered that I often cool down the white balance on that look too. That's better. So, oops. I've got original, we've got my kind of typical edit, we've got just base curve, we've got low key, we've got desaturated, we've got, that's not really split toning. Did I do another split toning one? That's more kind of coloration, black and white, a bright, and a slight bloom. Let's do more of a split tone. Clone. So split toning for me is taking things in the opposite directions, is kind of where I like. And we went along this path and then I decided to do that because I loved it. But split toning is more, let's even do a kind of a sepia with a cold light. That's coming out quite like our desaturated look. That's better. It's more kind of a warm. And often, if I'm going for this look, like that looks like crap. Basically, if this line goes through within a square of the center point, it's usually what I find to be most pleasing. It's very much a case of trial and error. That's kind of nice. What if we did that and increase the saturation around the outfit? Nothing happens. That's what happens. Very, very little. I still like it. Anything else? I don't think so. I think that's a lot. And that's 15 minutes, which is pretty quick for me. Raw, normal-ish for me, base curve, low key, low saturation. I can't call that split toned. What do I call that? I call that colorized, black and white, bright. It's my least favorite. Bloomed, so it's just the normal one with bloom on to give kind of a oh on the shoe, and more of a split tone. It's not. It's more sepia than split tone. What's going on? Maybe that's too harsh. The highlights are more subtle. Let's find something that's nicer. I mean, there's just so many. There's so many ways it can go. That's the difficulty. Somebody was talking on a Facebook page yesterday about finding your own style, and I thought about it for a while. I've decided I kind of have a style, but what I'm more interested in is if I'm doing a shoot and I have 5 images from that shoot, then I'm more interested in a consistent style over those 5 images, so a coherence and a deliverable of a set, than I am in having just my one style. Because my style kind of changes. I do a lot of dark background things. But at the same time, I do a lot of pure highlight, high key stuff too. So, yeah, Maybe I'll do a video on my thoughts around that. But that's all I have for today. Please like and subscribe, and have a good one.